Welcome to this week's video where I am going to be reviewing the Voxessor plugin. I'd like to start by thanking United Plugins, who gave me a copy of this plugin with no expectation of me saying anything in particular. I think you'll know that by the time I finish this video. Voxessor is a plugin that is designed to provide perfect voiceover in no time. According to them. That is a big claim, and it is a claim I will very much be testing in this video. Let's have a look at the plugin and the modules thereby. So I am covering the following modules in the following order. I'll be looking at the gate down here, the matching-based EQ, the profile-based EQ up here, the matching-based EQ here, the compressor down here, the leveler up here, and the De-Esser down here. The plugin does, of course, also provide metering. It ranges between $60 and $160, depending on whether it's on sale or not, and there is an affiliate link for the plugin in the description below. There are also affiliate links for the other plugins that I cover and that I am testing the Voxessor plugin against. My method for testing the plugin is quite simple. I've taken my standard FX chain, that's something I normally charge £55 or $75 for, and I have substituted in one part of that plugin at a time using Voxessor's modules one at a time in that plugin's place. I will cover what the plugins are as I go through. Everything else has stayed stable. And what you'll hear in each case is the following. You are going to hear my standard FX chain, that's the red bit at the top, followed by, in here, you will hear Voxessor enabled, so at the point where the red turns into the other color, you will hear it switch over to using Voxessor, and then partway through, Voxessor is then bypassed. So not only can you hear whether Voxessor is as good as or almost as good as my FX chain, and let's be honest, I have no expectation that it will be as good as a FX chain that has been custom made by me, for me, but also we'll be able to see at that point whether it is better than not having it at all, which is, of course, a pretty important thing to discover. So let's start by looking at the gate. Night came late to Valemont that evening, the sky refusing darkness until the last streaks of gold had drowned behind the mountains. So it does work perfectly well. I do, however, if I pull up Voxessor's details for this, so I dislike that the gate is just marked in a percentage. Now, it does work if I play this until the last streaks, and then I crank it up, you'll hear this until the last streaks of, so it is working. But the lack of an actual number for the threshold and the control over how much it, how much it activates, that's a problem for me. My conclusion for the gate module is really quite simple. Why pay money for a gate when you can get something better for free with the rear gate plugin in Reaper? Let's move on to the next part, the profile-based EQ, which I am comparing against Sonable's Smart EQ4, which is one of my favorite plugins. So let's start by just having a standard listen. When it did fall, it fell heavy, thick with mist that curled around the ramparts and muffled the world to breath and shadow. So you can hear, I do think it is muffled the world to breath and shadow, but not anywhere near as much as the curve that I have actually created for myself. Now, what I'm going to do here is let's set this to a loop, and I'm going to show how the different genders, as it were, not something I'm particularly pleased with, show how the difference is. So as you can hear, I actually had this set somewhere between woman and girl. So let's have a play. The ramparts and muffled the world, 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 the ramparts. So, you could argue that, the most suitable thing for me is somewhere down here in man, parts and muffled the world. And I think the ramparts and muffled the I think the woman/girl setting works far better on my voice. So, this causes some concerns about what their target curves are. I mean, I think if my relatively deep voice correlates and sounds best to woman/girl, then, what can we say about the target curves? Also, I have some issues with the labeling of man, guy, woman, and girl. I don't think it's a great thing to see. In this case, it's certainly not even helpful. Um, and I'm not a fan of that labeling at all. Let's have a look next at the EQ matching version. So just to set this up, I have already learned the settings for the EQ. So if I just pull it up, you'll see I've done this. I've analysed my voice, played it for 5 seconds during that, then turned that back off. And I've currently got match set to around about 40%. And I've got intensity of the regular EQ set to 0 because, yes, they can interact. Let's have a listen. Arian sat alone in his father's solar, a single candle burning low beside an untouched goblet of wine. Now, it does sound a lot more different this time, although something odd happened here. Touched goblet of wine. Clearly, there must be quite a strong curve going on at this point, so there's quite a difference in the levels as a result of, switching from one part of the curve to another. That's also only at 40%. If I turn it down, if I turn it up to 100%, let's have a listen to what that does. And sat alone in his father's solar, a single candle burning low beside an untouched goblet. Yeah, extreme to say the least. And yes, they can combine, so let's set it to man, which I already wasn't a fan of, to maximum intensity, match ideal to maximum intensity, and what happened? Alone in his father's solar, a single candle burning low beside an untouched goblet. That is not good voiceover, frankly. That is saturation at a minimum, and distortion, really, it's gone past regular saturation. It's gone well into distortion, because, of course, saturation is just good distortion as opposed to bad distortion. Let's move on to the compressor. This is running against Sonable Smart Comp 3. I have it currently set to maximum compression, crackled but through little warmth. Maps still littered the table from the morning's council, their edges curled with wax drips and the faint smell of ink. So it's actually a very transparent compressor. So I do like it, but it's not a very strong compressor either, and it's not customizable in any way. I can't set the threshold. I can't set the amount of compression. I don't think compression is something that should be left to a single button. And I'm going to come back to the compressor at the end because there's a bit of an oddity going on with the compressor, as you'll hear. Onto the leveler. This is running against Tri-Leveler, which is a JSFX plugin and is free. Have a listen. He traced one idle finger along the border marked in red, following it until the parchment ended and the uncertainty began. Frankly, the leveler is not fit for the purpose. I will say no more than that. Onto the De-Esser. So, this is not running in comparison to anything. I don't normally use a De-Esser, so what you hear when the De-Esser activates is a De-Esser against no De-Esser. The sound of boots echoed faintly from the corridor, guards changing post. Beyond that, silence. Arian leaned back, rubbing a hand. So the oddity here is that there is colour in the audio. There is some sort of change to the audio that has been created by the De-Esser. A De-Esser, in my opinion, should be de-essing and nothing else. Now, the other problem is I listened to the audio go on repeat for ages to work out exactly where my sibilance was. And in this example, it is at 4.4 kilohertz, or at least centered on 4.4 kilohertz. I've set the De-Esser in Voxessor to 4.4. I've set intensity and depth to maximum and minimum and halfway in the middle. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. Except for colouring the audio. Frankly, that's not what a De-Esser should be doing. Let's move on to everything. So in this case, I've tried to use Voxessor in the way it's described in order to do everything all at once. So let's have a listen. His father slept fitfully these days, leaving the estate's weight to him, and though Arian wore it lightly in daylight, with laughter, mockery, and jewel-bright defiance, that is not pleasant to listen to. Sadly, too, that's the best I've managed to get it to sound. So let's move on to my final conclusions. So, number one, the gate. I don't think it does anything a free gate doesn't do better, especially in Reaper. Another opinion on the gate. The gate adds colour I dislike. I do not understand why a noise gate would add colour to the audio. It shouldn't be making that sort of change. Number two, the profile EQ. I have my doubts about the target curves. Anyone would, if a deep voice requires being set to woman, girl, or whatever it was, in order to sound at its best. And, of course, I do have some real issues with gender-based labelling. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's reductive and a bit backwards. Three, the matching-based EQ. I really dislike that it introduces so much colour, and I really don't like the fact that it introduces saturation and distortion. Sure, maybe that's wanted for singing or something like that, but this is marketed as a voiceover plugin. It should be doing all this transparently. It shouldn't be introducing colour. The compressor's interesting. It was very transparent when I tested it earlier, but actually, when I play this lightly in daylight with laughter, mockery, and jewel-bright, that would sound quite different if I turned the compressor in Voxessor off. So the compressor appears to be working wildly differently based on which parts of Voxessor are enabled or not, which is an odd interaction, and I don't like the fact that that's unpredictable. It's not something I expected. I expected all the modules to either work independently or to be very clear about how they were working together. The leveler, frankly, I dislike the concept of leveling with a single button, and it wasn't fit for purpose. The De-Esser doesn't seem to do anything, and again, I dislike the fact that it seems to introduce colour to the audio. So overall, my opinion on the plugin is not positive. I do not recommend using Voxessor. I think it tries to do everything well, and as a result, does nothing particularly impressively, and frankly, does nothing particularly well. I don't think it is a good channel strip for voiceover, and I think you can get a lot further with free plugins, and certainly a lot further with just Sonable Smart EQ. Possibly Sonable Smart Comp 3, but equally a free compressor would be fine. And you can DS with a bit of EQ, gate with rear gate, and level with Tri-Leveler 2. And hopefully at some point I will get permission from the maker of Tri-Leveler 2 to release my patch for it, what I call Tri-Leveler 2 Plus, which lets it be customized to be even more suitable for audiobook work and narration work rather than broadcast work. So that's it for the review of Voxessor. Coming up next time will be my review of the Sanken CS-M1, which is a wonderful shotgun microphone, followed by the MKH-8060, which is the microphone I've taken to using all the time. It's what I'm speaking on right now. Followed by the Mini CMIT, and then the DPA-4017C, before I come back and do a final head-to-head of all these new shotgun microphones. After that, I will be returning to plugin reviews and comparisons for currently a minimum of 10 videos planned, but it may well be more. So hopefully you will enjoy those as much as you do the microphone plugins. Thank you so much for watching my review of Voxessor. My thanks to United Plugins for a copy of it. My apologies to United Plugins for my opinion of it. I hope to see you next time for another one of my videos. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.